Hey everyone, it's Sunny. So, do y'all remember the DS games Stardust Accelerator, Reverse of Arcadia? I played those games as a kid, and they had these super cool things that I absolutely loved called duel puzzles, where you had a lethal line you had to figure out to win on that turn. Personally, this is also something that I really struggle with because I tend to play for position a lot, just autopiloting, and that means that I actually miss lethal lines in my games very frequently. So to make this more fun for everyone, I decided to take some lethals that I missed and make it a fun video. There are 5 puzzles in ascending order of difficulty, so the first one will be the easiest by far, and then it will get progressively more difficult. Also, all of the lethal lines here will feature junk synchron because I really want to emphasize that junk synchron has a lot of flexibility to the point where it creates lethal a lot when you draw it. The rules are pretty simple. I will describe a game state, and you have to win on that turn using junk synchron. All of the information you need will be on the screen. After I finish describing the situation, I'll give you about 5 seconds to pause and try to figure it out. Before we start, here is a 15 card extra deck that you will always have access to for these replays. Now, not all of these replays have access to all 15 cards here, but if you think you need a card that isn't displayed on the screen, then you will not need that card for the OTK. In addition, you may presume that the list you're playing has 2 Duke Frogs, 2 Treeborn Frogs, 3 Swap Frogs, 3 Substitutes, and 1 Unifrog. For the first puzzle, you have Junk Synchron, Prodigy, Malicious Edge, Swap Frog, and Heavy Storm in your hand. Your opponent has 2,300 life points, and you have a level 1 and a level 2 in the graveyard for Junk Synchron. Now, I would like you to pause the video here and try and figure out the puzzle. So the first puzzle is just a simple Bryanak line. What you do is you activate Heavy Storm first in order to clear the bottomless trap hole, and then you summon the Prodigy now that you have an open board in order to have enough levels to make the Bryanak. You go Junk Synchron to summon a level 1 from the graveyard, such as Substitute, in order to create a 6. And then you pitch 2 to bounce both their monsters and attack for 2,300. This will kill him through absolutely everything except for Battle Fader, which this deck is unlikely to play. Although this is the simplest OTK, the reason why it's a little bit deceptive is because Bryanak trades very inefficiently into Fortress because it rips a card out of your hand, and you usually don't want that, whereas Catastor is +1, so this line is actually a little difficult to see in-game. For the second easiest puzzle, you are playing against Dragon Turbo just after they resolve Super Rejuvenation, which implies that the back row they set are most likely fake and just there to preserve their hand size. In addition, the cards you have in your hand are Junk Synchron, Swap Frog, Vanity's Fiend, Brain Control, and Enemy Controller. There's a line here that will deal all 7,000 damage required while also playing through Tragodia. Please pause the video and find the OTK line. So this OTK is also rather simple. What you do is you pitch the Substitute in order to special summon the Swap Frog, and then you can dump any water monster from your deck. It doesn't matter what you dump because you already have Duke Frog in your graveyard, which is a level 2 you need in order to make Junk Warrior. I wanted to use this replay as an example because Junk Warrior is one of the best OTK enablers in the Frog deck, especially because each Swap Frog gives it 1,000 more attack points, which means that you end up creating 3,000, 4,000 plus Junk Warriors a lot. So here you summon a 3,300 attack Junk Warrior, and then you Brain Control the Blue Eyes. Now you have 1,000 attack points from Swap Frog, 3,300 from Junk Warrior, and 3,000 from the Blue Eyes, which is 7,300 in total. If they drop Tragodia on the Swap Frog, then you would just Enemy Controller tribute your Swap Frog, and then take the Tragodia, and then attack for lethal anyways. Gores was blocked by the back row that were set because of Super Rejuvenation, which means that the only thing that Dragon Turbo plays that could stop this OTK would be specifically Treacherous Trap Hole. For the third puzzle, your opponent has 8,000 life points, and your hand consists of 2 Swap Frogs, Junk Synchron, Enemy Controller, and the Cold Wave that you're about to get off Gold Sarcophagus. In addition, your graveyard has both level 1s and level 2s available. Please pause the video here and find the lethal line. The solution for this puzzle is a little bit more challenging because it's about managing your board space. So the first thing you have to do is Enemy Controller, their Grepher in standby phase, and then summon the Treeborn Frog again. You will need every single one of these cards. Then, once you go to main phase 1, obviously you want to activate the Cold Wave so that the back row can't stop your push. Next, you special summon the Swap Frog, and then send the Duke Frog from your field to the graveyard. Once the Duke Frog is sent to the graveyard, it will not miss timing, which means that you can search for a second Swap Frog. After adding the Swap Frog from your graveyard to your hand, you want to use Swap Frog's second effect in order to bounce the Treeborn Frog from the field to your hand. After that, you want to special summon the second Swap Frog and do not use the effect to send from the field to the graveyard. Ignore what's happening on screen. This replay is actually a mistake. The reason is because you will need the level 2 on field in order to have a body to synchro summon. And if you send the Dupe Frog to graveyard, you can still OTK, but it doesn't play around main deck DD Crow. After you do this, you want to summon Junk Synchron, and then using the level 2 on board, presumably the Dupe Frog, you want to synchro summon for Junk Warrior. This Junk Warrior will have the added attack points of 2 Swap Frogs, making it a 4300 attack point Junk Warrior. 2 Swap Frogs, the Dark Grepher, and the Junk Warrior that is boosted by 2 Swap Frogs adds up to exactly 8000 damage. They have a back row and are locked under Cold Wave, which means that Gourds cannot possibly stop this OTK, and the only thing that could ever stop this from killing them would be a main deck Trigodia in a Blackwing deck. So that was the medium difficulty puzzle. Here is where we get to rather challenging puzzles. You absolutely must win on this turn because you only have 200 life points, and your opponent is getting a Drill Warrior the next turn, which means that they can just have their attack points and kill you. They have a board of an attack position Level Eater, an attack position Machina Gear Frame, and a defense position token that is a fluff token with 0/0 defense. You have an attack mode Treeborn Frog, an attack mode Caius, and an attack mode Machina Fortress with Junk Synchron, Treeborn Frog, and Swap Frog in your hand. The 3 cards in your graveyard do not matter, and your opponent has 6100 life points. Please pause the video here. To start off, you want to pitch the Treeborn Frog in your hand to special summon the Swap Frog, and then you must send a level 2 monster from your deck to your graveyard. Presumably, it would be Swap Frog. Next, you want to use the Swap Frog's second effect to bounce the Treeborn Frog in the field to your hand. Then you want to normal summon the Junk Synchron and special summon a level 2 frog from your graveyard. After this, you want to synchro summon the Junk Synchron with the level 2 frog you summoned from the graveyard in defense mode in order to make a Junk Warrior. Again, this is a 3300 Junk Warrior, which means that you have the final step of extra normal summoning the Treeborn Frog from your hand. Now, you can sequence your attacks in any order as long as the Treeborn Frog attacks the token. This is because you now have 9200 damage on board while your opponent only has 2400 points to defend against, which means that they will take 6800 damage as long as you attack the token with the Treeborn Frog. Okay, for the final puzzle, this puzzle is the turbo difficulty puzzle. So in your graveyard, you have pretty much every single level of frog you need, and then on board you have Treeborn Frog, Dupe Frog. In your hand, you have Junk Synchron, Rise of the Storm Monarch, Dark Arm Dragon, DD Crow, Battle Fader, Swap Frog, Heavy Storm, and Brain Control. In this situation, you are banishing a dark from your hand for a Lure of Darkness, and you have 0 darks in your graveyard at the moment. You have to find a way to deal 9200 damage on this turn. Your opponent has 1 set back row, a face-up Zombie Master, and a face-up Dark End Dragon that has used its effect 1 time. This is every card in your opponent's graveyard. All the information you need to OTK them is on screen right now. Please pause the video and find the OTK. Okay, to start off, you want to be banishing one of the level 1 dark monsters in your hand and then activate the Heavy Storm to clear the back row. Next, you want to normal summon the Junk Synchron and then target Swap Frog. This is because you will need the Swap Frog to 1. Make board space and 2. Add an additional water to your hand. After you bounce the Treeborn Frog, you want to discard the Treeborn Frog to special summon the Swap Frog. This is very similar to Puzzle 3. After you do this, you want to synchro the Junk Synchron and the Dupe Frog in order to make a 4300 Junk Warrior. After this, you want to use your Brain Control on the Zombie Master. The reason is because for this OTK, you will need an additional tuner. So after you take the Zombie Master, you want to discard in order to special summon the Plague Spreader zombie in their graveyard. Next, you will synchro the Plague Spreader with the 2 Swap Frogs you have on board in order to make Bryanek. And then you will discard with Bryonek's effect in order to bounce the Dark End back to the extra deck, which leaves you with 1800 plus 2300 plus 4400 damage on board, which is only 8500 damage. That means that you're 700 short because of the 2 android gains. Well, clearly you need to summon the Dark Arm Dragon in your hand. So, the second line involves banishing the Battle Fader, and then activating Heavy Storm. Once you do this, you want to normal summon Junk Synchron just like the first lethal line. After this, it's very similar. You want to revive the Swap Frog because it creates space and adds a water to your hand, and then you bounce the Treeborn Frog just like in the first lethal line. Next, you also do the same thing where you special the Swap Frog, and here you will again synchro summon for Junk Warrior. Although another option is to synchro summon for Catastor because both of them are dark monsters and are the third dark you need in order to drop Dark Arm Dragon. This means you will need another way in order to get the synchro summoned dark monster, such as Junk Warrior or Catastor, into the graveyard, which means that you need to brain the Zombie Master again so you can use their Plague Spreader in order to convert the Junk Warrior into the graveyard. Remember to discard the DD Crow in your hand because it's the third dark that you will need in order to summon the Dark Arm Dragon. Once you do this, because Junk Warrior is a level 5 monster, and unfortunately Plague Spreader is a level 2, it means the highest attack point level 7 Synchro monster you can make is Black Rose Dragon. However, once you summon the Dark Arm Dragon and pop the Dark End Dragon with the effect, then you now have 1000 plus 1800 plus 2400 plus 2800, which is only 8000 damage. Again, short of the 9200 you need. The two magical android gains really complicate this OTK. Okay, everyone, I'm sorry for trolling a little bit, but for this OTK, it's actually a lot simpler than everyone thinks. Obviously, you still start the same way, so you banish the Battle Fader off the Allure, and then you activate Heavy Storm. After this, you want to normal summon Junk Synchron and target Swap Frog. The reason why is because the Swap Frog will clear board space for you, and you need to clear one spot on the board. After this, you'll use the Swap Frog effect to bounce it to hand, and then once this happens, you end up activating Brain Control on the Zombie Master. The reason why is because you want to use the Zombie Master's effect to summon the Plague Spreader from their graveyard. And as you can see, you have two tuners on board, a level 2 tuner, a level 3 tuner, and then you have a level 1, a level 2, and a level 4. And if it wasn't already obvious, then what you really have is you have a level 4 Synchro Monster and a level 8 Synchro Monster. And your opponent has a 2100 attack point monster on their field in attack mode. And you have one warrior in your graveyard while your opponent has one warrior in their graveyard. Which means that the Colossal Fighter that you summon off of your Zombie Master, Plague Spreader, and Doomfrog is only 3000 attack points. So yeah, you just Colossal Arm them. The Dark Arm Dragon was just a red herring. If it makes anyone feel a little bit better, then very skilled players that have competed at Rivet Rulers, such as Konbanwa, have also struggled to figure this out. Here is him talking about how he spent over 3.5 hours and could not figure out how to get the OTK. If you have any suggestions for this type of video, please let me know for like formatting or just really anything. I try to read all the comments, and obviously this is my first time making this type of video, so I'm sure I made a lot of mistakes throughout the way. Lastly, I just want to shout out Snack from Crow's Nest because this thumbnail that I have is actually designed by her. I'm not delusional. I know my thumbnail game is weak and I've been trying to work on it, but right now I can't do it, so I just have my friends help me out. And yeah, that's about it. See ya.